Raising kids in a country where you yourself have a completely different upbringing is not going to be the easiest thing to do all the time. So I got some good news for you and some bad news. Bad news is that there's likely going to be a tug of war between you and your children. And that might occur because your children are out in a society and a culture that they see every day. And in most cases, especially if they're in school, most of the day outside of the home. So they're going to see, witness, experience way much more than you're going to be able to teach them about the culture you want them to also be a part of. And I see it already with a bunch of kids with parents that come from different places. I can kind of sense a little bit of confusion in some of these kids, and that could come from them getting two different sides, or maybe even more different sides than that, on what their life should be, who they are, so on and so forth. So it could kind of work against us and give those kids a kind of sense of not knowing exactly where they belong out in society. But the good news is that in the end, there's a high probability of the kids winning. And that's kind of what we want at the end of the day, in it. We want our kids to win. Everything we do, everything we say, every move we make is for the betterment of our kids, to make them beneficial to whatever society that they're going to be a part of, to go on and be kind and understanding, yet firm and resilient, and just basically go on to be better human beings than we were. Even if you feel like you're a stand-up person, you want them to be an ultra stand-up person. So allow me to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly about me as an American raising multicultural children in Germany. I'm Christopher, and I hope you like the content enough to stick around. So one of the things I see about raising children in a different culture than the one I grew up in myself is that it really does open their minds. I got two daughters that I'm raising here, and one of the major differences I can see between them and myself is they are way more open to things than I ever was. Now, if you're American, you can attest to the fact that America doesn't always give us the best of other cultures. When and if they do, it's not always painted in a digestible manner. For instance, and I'm sure things might have changed a little bit since I was a kid, but if they ever wanted to depict, like, say, someone from Germany on a cartoon show, they would typically depict stereotypes of someone from Germany as opposed to just having a German person. And almost the same for any other country. I'm sure y'all remember some of the cartoons from back in the day that America used to run. It was almost like the only way they can convince you that that was that kind of person is to play up stereotypical stuff. And a lot of that stuff was just full-on offensive. So as I was saying, when I see my daughters, I can see how accepting they are of this completely different culture that I definitely could never show them. There's no way I could make them understand the German culture. But with them being so immersed in it, and like I said, most of the day, since they're school-age kids, they don't know anything different. So it's a complete other side of the coin of them being taught German culture from an American point of view and them being taught the German culture from being in Germany. And having said that, you'll never catch them doing like those hand gestures, y'all know what I'm talking about, or mocking the history or doing any of that because they respect it. Another good thing is them being able to learn a language while super young. So y'all know children acquire languages way better than adults can, and the younger the better usually. So being that English was spoken in the home primarily, they had no problem picking up on that. It's not even an issue. But at the same time, being so immersed in the German culture, German is being spoken to them the rest of the time while they're out of the house. So they've had almost equally the amount of time to learn German as they have to learn English. And I would say for them, both languages are well in the pockets. But the German schools also teach other languages. So my children are also in the process of learning their third language right now. And since they've had the practice or conditioning on how to pick up a language within themselves, I kind of tend to think that languages will come easier to them at this point. And if they go on to learn a fourth, fifth, or however many more languages, it'll just come that much easier to them because they're already conditioned personally to understanding their way of absorbing a language. And one other thing I want to say about raising kids in multicultures is it makes them flexible. So what I mean by that is as they grow up and as they become adults, start figuring out the things they want to do, the places they want to be, the things they want to achieve, they'll be super flexible human beings in this world. And I don't mean physically flexible, I mean they'll be versatile. So if they decide to live in a certain part of the world that speaks one of the languages they learned when they were younger, they can do that. And I do teach my kids to seek entrepreneurship first, but in the event that they do need to get out into the world and seek the dream job, many jobs appreciate a person that speaks multiple languages. So if that doesn't show anything, for sure that shows that that particular person has the willingness to excel and move beyond. So it does kind of add value to that person, and that's going to be necessary in their future. So those are some of the good things about raising kids in a different culture than the one you grew up in. Now on to some of the bad things. One of the things that I'm going to put under the bad list, something I mentioned earlier, and it's confusion. Now again, I can't speak for everyone on this. This is just my experience. But when it comes to my two girls, when they talk to their family back in the States, friends back in the States, they can definitely see a difference in the societies those kids are being raised in and the society they currently are being raised in. And I'll get questions all the time from them that I need to clarify for them that they just don't understand. But I can tell, especially in this point where their peers are important, I can tell that they feel like sometimes they're missing out on something, like they're not experiencing something at their age that they should be. Zum Beispiel. There are a lot of American TV shows that they watch that reference the American societies, the American school, childhood and raising and upbringing, and the whole thing. When I watch with them, I relate completely, but I don't think about the fact that there's things in this show that they just can't relate to. From smaller things, like when they see an American school on a TV show, they see how the school is built, they see lockers, they see sports teams and homecoming dances and proms and all the things that come with the schools in America. When I'm watching, I don't see anything strange. Nothing even triggers for me to wonder about anything. But after a while of being asked these questions, why do they have those locker doors to put all their stuff in? Or why do they have all those trophies in the front of the school, which are from the sports teams when they win championships or whatnot? But speaking of championships, they'll ask, how come we don't have a volleyball team, a baseball team, a basketball team, a football team, cheerleading, tennis? How come we don't see all of that in our school? And I just have to explain to them that there's a difference between the societies and the way schools are run, depending on what country you're in. But the point I'm making is, at this point in their lives, they are really attracted to things that look different and fun. And when they ask me, wow, is that what it's like in America? And I just have to be like, eh. But still, notes are compared between them and their peers in the States. And you know, like I said, sometimes they feel like they're missing out on something. And in some cases, they kind of just are. I mean, I'd be lying if I said some parts of me just wishes that my kids can have that American high school experience. So depending on what country, culture you're coming from, this could kind of be one of the bad things about raising kids in another culture. They can feel a sense of missing out or being left out. Also, not for nothing, my oldest daughter would love to be able to drive at 16. Just saying. The next bad thing could be bad, but doesn't have to be. But it goes kind of against something I mentioned in the good category, and that's opportunities. So as I said, I teach entrepreneurship to my daughters first and foremost, but I don't teach them to reject or deny opportunities that may present themselves to them at any given time in their professional career. But let me just say this, and nobody can really argue with it. Self-employment, entrepreneurship, all of that stuff is way more abundant in the States than it is in Germany. Not saying it's impossible in Germany, but you're more bound to be able to make it happen in the States than you would be in Germany. So with the things that my daughters are interested in now and the directions they want to take their careers now, they're still pretty young, so they don't know that they don't know for sure yet. But me as an adult, I can already see that they would probably be better off pursuing certain things elsewhere. There might be other countries out there that could facilitate their dreams, but right now, the US compared to Germany, they're way better off pursuing that stuff there. Many more young people can begin their careers at a younger age. Now I'm talking young adulthood. Quicker, more accessibly, and easier in the States. There's no question about it. There's no getting around it. It's the land of opportunity. And I want my kids to have as much opportunity as possible. I mean, without falling into the trap of the American dream, it can be done. So less opportunity for independent professional development. I put that in this bad category, but I'm sure some of y'all will disagree. You're welcome to it. I put it here in this category. So if those were the bad things, what could possibly be so ugly? So just as well, this ugly category, a lot of you probably can't relate to, but my two kids are biracial. They are of mixed race. One of my daughters was born here, but they both are as German-American kids as much as German-American kids can be. They fit in pretty good in school, and it's gotten better over the years. They've made a pretty decent amount of friends. Many have come and gone, and they seemed to have gained a solid footing in their circles, their social circles. For some reason though, and you probably know where I'm going with this, there still is that slight sense of gatekeeping. What I mean and what I'm trying to say by that is there always seems to still be that one or two kids that feels the need to remind them that they're either American or not German. And by German, I mean white. This has happened at least once each school they've had to move to here in Germany. And each time that student is reprimanded, put in their place, corrected, whatever the case is. But where did the kid get it? You understand what I'm saying? I've talked to some of the parents of these kids because we can pick up on it. Some parents will try so hard to not be what they think you think they are. And the harder they try, the easier it is to pick up on it. My kids are half white, by the way. But in my kids' current school, there's an issue with a boy in my oldest daughter's class who felt the need to make a black joke behind the teacher's back. My girl was the only one with tan toned skin in her class. He looked at her when he said it, and he looked like he wanted it to be funny to her. Later on after class, I think he felt like he overstepped his boundaries and that he might be facing a little trouble. So he went to her and tried to spark up conversation, trying to kiss her ass, I guess to keep her from escalating this and taking it on to the next level. So I would never front and tell you guys that every single day shit is sweet and there's never any issues. That wouldn't be true. And the all out ugly could be, at least if you're in a situation similar to ours, is that in the place you are, there might be some people that just simply won't let you belong. And before people start getting into the comment section saying, well, why don't you just go back to the States? Come on. I should have to keep saying this, but there's nowhere in this world where you're not gonna find at least one idiot. There's no escaping idiots. Some idiot is teaching another idiot every day, okay? So as far as the good, bad, and ugly about raising children in a different culture, that's pretty much all I got for this video. I have a few more of these educational style videos to go. Subscribe to see them all.